Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the ninth session of commentary on Dua Arafah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Today we shall continue with the passages from the Dua that we said have a more emotional tone to them, and there are in the middle of the passages some very important points that can create a kind of paradigm shift in the way we look at Ashura, the life of Imam Hussain, and actually the way we look at the world and the events that take place inside it. So inshallah, we're going to have a very important discussion as well today. And let's see what happens. I also have an announcement to make inshallah at the end of the session. So stay tuned for that one as well. And okay, I hope inshallah you're keeping well. If you're ready, let's start. In the name of God. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So last session, if you remember, we spoke about how Imam Hussain slowly started to change the tone from a kind of intimate talk between a lover and a beloved, between Imam Hussain and God, in which Imam Hussain was just immersed in the beauty of God and His love. As Imam Hussain now starts to leave the plain of Arafah and the dua is about to finish, Imam has one eye on God and another eye on what's going to happen, what awaits him. And if you remember, in the dua, Imam started even mentioning things which can very much be relevant to the events of Ashura. If you remember, Imam said, oh, I'm going to go to this very dangerous journey, and it seems like my family are going to be, I'm going to leave them, I have to leave them, and oh God, protect them after me, which could very much be relevant to the events of Ashura. Today, that theme continues, right? So Imam is now, after, if you remember, we had these intimate discussions about God's love, about Imam Hussein's thanking and all of that. Now Imam is telling God as Imam is about to leave, right? So he's saying, God, now I'm leaving. I know right now I'm here, I'm talking to you, everything is beautiful, right? But now I'm going to leave, and ila man takiluni, right? Here I'm with you, you're taking care of me. What's going to happen to me after I leave, right? Ila man takiluni, to whom are you leaving me, right? Ila qaribin fayaqta'uni, the people close to me who are gonna cut me off. Am ila ba'idin fayatajahamuni, or the strangers, the people far from me, who are going to try to humiliate me and disgrace me. As you can see, the passages are very much, in a sense, it is relevant to every single one of us. It applies to us that on the one hand, we want God to directly take care of us, and inshallah later on today we will say why. Because of the qualities God has. Later on, inshallah, in this dua, you will see that Imam Hussain says, God, you're very different to others. When I make a mistake, you don't embarrass me. Although, even in part of the dua, Imam says, God, you're so kind that even when you forgive, sometimes I still feel guilty, right? You make me forget what I've done so that I don't even feel bad about it after you've forgiven me. So God is like this. God is another phrase we have in Dua Arafah, which is so beautiful. Imam says God is the one whose kindness never stops, right? Let me bring the phrase for you. It is so beautiful. Ya dhal ma'ruf alladhi la yanqata'u abada. Oh, whose kindness never ends, never stops, right? And these are the things I said, inshallah, we need to talk about, because unfortunately, we have a lot of misconceptions about God within our own, community. I'm not talking about other groups, no, within us. We are talking about a God who gets angry, who wants to punish, who, if you make a mistake, gets upset, who needs your prayer, who needs your worship, who needs your thanking. Every single one of these Imam Hussain mentions in the dua, and he says like this: God, you're the one who doesn't need me to thank you. You're the one who shows love to me even when I didn't know you, even when I didn't talk about you, you know, all of this. So when God is like this, Imam Hussain says, Ila man takiluni. You're so kind, you forgive, you forget, you make me forget, you do all of this. Why should I want to ask for someone else? Why should I, want another person to be in charge of me? Or so on one hand, this of course applies to every single one of us. And on the other hand, you can see how also this is very much relevant to the stories of Ashura. And it says, Imam says, Am ila al-mustad'afina li wa anta rabbi wa maliku amri. There are people who want me weak. And then Imam says, Ashku ilayka ghurbati. Now this is very beautiful because Imam is now starting to talk to God, saying, God, I'm going to, be a little bit honest with you. I want to let out what's inside me. I want to talk to you. And this is very good. This part in which Imam says, this is going to happen to me, God. Ashku ilayka ghurbati. I'm really feeling like a stranger in this place, وَحَوَانِ عَلَى مَنْ مَلَكَتْهُ أَمْرِي. And a lot of people want to disgrace me, want to humiliate me, want to embarrass me. And why is this very beautiful? Because, for a lot of sessions, we spoke about how Imam Hussain was immersed in God's love and God's beauty. And Imam was saying, wherever I look, I just see your love for me and all of that. And someone could have thought, well, he had it easy, if they still didn't know the story of Ashura. Well, obviously, everything is going great. Why shouldn't you feel God's love and all of that? But in these phrases, Imam shows us that no, at that very moment when he was immersed in God's love, he was aware. He was expecting what was about to happen to him, all the difficulties, all the pain, all the suffering, So Imam knows all of this, right? And this is very beautiful for us to know that in order to be immersed in love, in order to see the beauty in this world, it doesn't mean that life has to be perfect externally for us. It doesn't mean that if we feel difficulties, if we feel pain, there's anything wrong with us, or that we can't be honest about it, right? Imam is very open about it. He says, Ilahi ashku ilayka ghurbati. I am gharib, right? In this land, which is supposed to be my hometown, I feel like a stranger. This is what they're going to do to me, And I'm come to you. Ilahi ashku ilayka. I want to talk to you about this. I want to tell you, But now, Imam mentions something afterwards, which is so beautiful, right? After this, Imam says, فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ غَضِبْتَ عَلَيَّ فَلَا أُبَالِي سواك سواك سبحانك غير أن عافيتك أوسع لي لك العتبى حتى ترضى قبل ذلك. What does here mean? Imam says, God, I told all of this to you, okay? I'm feeling as a stranger. The people close to me are going to betray me. We know that the people who wrote letters to Imam Hussain on the day of Ashura, they were on the side of the army trying to kill him. So the people close to him betrayed him. The people far from him, ba'id, they were also trying to harm him in any way, right? Imam says, God, I told you all of this, and I'm really complaining to you, but know that I'm telling all of this to you because you're the one I can talk to. Do not think that this is going to make me stop loving you, right? It says, lakal utba, lakal hatba. And then he says, if you're happy, fala ubali sevak, which is very beautiful. It says, you know what? As long as I have you, all of this is okay. I can deal with all of this. As long as I've got you. It keeps making me, think of, imagine there are a couple who really love each other, and now one of them is telling the other one, you know what? I'm having a very difficult time. Like this is happening, that's happening, but don't worry, y'all. Don't worry. I'm telling you this because, it helps me, and just knowing that we're together, I'm sure we can deal with everything. Being with you gives me the strength to deal with the whole world. And this is what's happening right now between Imam Hussain and God. Imam Hussain is very much aware of the difficulties and is sharing it with God, because within this sharing is getting the strength from God. And this is very beautiful as a lesson for us as well, that we can always take our difficulties, take our challenges our sufferings to God and say, God, this is difficult, right? Hala, Imam Hussain has reached this level. Well, through this communication with God, he can get the strength. Now, initially, we may not have this. Like, it takes time. And inshallah, I will talk about this, okay? But let's continue with the dua, and inshallah, we'll come back to that point if I remember. So Imam says, Lakal utba, lakal utba. God, you know what? If you're fine, fala ubali sawak. I don't care about anything else, right? As long as what's between us is fine, that's enough for me. And then he's not just bluffing God. Again, I want you to very much bear this in mind. You know, sometimes for example, in the lecturer may say, you have to find peace with God and all of that. That is not what Imam Hussain is talking about. That is an order, external something, you know, we have to force on ourselves. No, this is how Imam naturally feels, right? So if we don't have this, it's fine. We don't need to fake it. We don't need to no, we don't have it. It's fine. He has it, right? Imam has it. Good for him. And I know we'll talk about how we can get there as well. So Imam says, now our relationship is in a way, because I feel you so much, so now what you are is Ya uddati fi shiddati, Ya sahibi fi wahdati, Ya ghiyathi fi kurbati. So now God, you know what has happened? I feel like in the difficulties you're there with me. And I can, hold on to you, like you're my means in difficulty. You're my relief. And it's very beautiful because what happened, if you remember in the Dua Arafah, as we went through the different passages, initially we spoke about God's love, all the God's blessings, that he took care of us, he made our parents loving to us, all of that. So we had that. Then Imam mentioned the difficulties that he's going to go through, right? I'm going to go on this very dangerous trip. Right? They're going to do this to me. My family is going to be left alone. This is going to happen to me. Even people close to me are going to betray me. So we had God, and then we had the difficulties. And in this phrase that we're reading now, Imam Hussain is merging them together. God in difficulties, right? Which is the whole spiritual secret. This formula. This one formula that can solve all the problems in this world, and that is love, right? Love. There is nothing other than love that can give us this peace, this healing power. And this is the love between us and our Creator, and as a result of that, then between us and every single thing that God has created, right? So now Imam says, Ya uddati fi shiddati. Now I have you. So if you remember, we were talking about how come in the first session, where did the strength come from on the day of Ashura? That even though the enemy were killing all of Imam Hussein's companions and family, he still stood on his principle. Like, for example, when his daughter called him, he was so calm. He sat down, he said, what is it? The light of my eye. Where did this peace, where did this calmness come from in the heat of that moment? And now you see the answer is here given to us. Ya uddati fi shiddati, Ya sahibi fi wahdati. That peace was a result of a lifetime of communication based on love with God. So that in the moment where we need God, he's there for us. And this is very important. Why? Because it means that, like any other relationship, in order to be able to benefit from its outcomes, we need to be consistent. We need to put some energy there. Although even if we're not, God is going to keep bringing us back. Actually, there's a line, inshallah, we'll see that Imam says, you're doing all the work. You're bringing my heart towards you. But anyway, in order to be able to have God in our difficulties, we need to have established a relationship, right? And as I said, unfortunately, a lot of what they've told us about God has stopped us from even wanting to go towards God. Because God is a little bit, serious, it's this and that. But Imam Hussain introduces a God that is so easy to go to, a God that is loving, a God that forgives mistakes, a God that never stops his kindness, right? A God that loves you unconditionally, a God that, hala, will see. Imam says, masalan, there are these people who don't even worship you, worship other people, do this, do that, and you still love them so much. So a God like this, you can go to and you can talk to and you can establish a connection. And once that connection becomes real in the heart, then it gives us strength in difficulties. And if you remember, we said that this is a method in which you find peace, calmness, and all of that beauty in the world through changing your inner environment as opposed to the external environment, right? And another issue we have, unfortunately, is that because we are not aware of the inner work that Imam Hussain is trying to teach us how to do, we also interpret situations very wrongly. Like a lot of us, Allah inshallah, will go through it now. A lot of us look at the events of Ashura and think Imam Hussain lost. Imam Hussain was defeated, okay? Masalan, haven't you heard some people, for example, say, oh, if only we were there to help you. To help you what? Masalan, win? Did Imam lose? Or for example, you know, Imam now says something very different. It shows that the way Imam looks at things, the way God looks at things in the world, and the way we look at them are very different. Let's read the next passage and see what am I talking about. So Imam Halak continues with some of the issues we said. Imam says, God, you're my safe haven. You're my, my sanctuary. When the earth with all its greatness doesn't seem to have place for me. It's like Imam Hussain, this is perhaps one of the matams that Imam Hussain is reciting for himself. It's a very emotional and sad thing when you link this to Ashura. But let's move on from that. Imam says, وَأَنْتَ مُؤَيِّدِي بِالنَّصْرِ عَلَىٰ أَعْدَائِي وَلَوْلَا نَصْرُكَ إِيَّايَ لَكُنْتُ مِنَ الْمَغْلُوبِينَ. Imam says, oh God, you are my help against my enemies. And if it wasn't for your help, I would have lost. I would have been defeated. Hang on a second. Don't we already think Imam was defeated? So what is this phrase here? Can we say that Imam didn't know that what's going to happen in Ashura? Or did Imam think that he's going to defeat? What is happening? Imam says, I'm going to win. Imam says, you helped me against my enemies and I won. And he says, if it wasn't for you, oh God, I would have lost. Oh, this is where I say the way we look at Ashura and the way Imam Hussain looks at Ashura are very different. Imam says, I won. Right? وَلَوْلَا نَصْرُكَ إِيَّايَ لَكُنْتُ مِنَ الْمَغْلُوبِينَ. If it wasn't for your help, I would have been defeated. So I won. And now the question is this. What is this victory? Right? We spoke about it in a few sessions that we said the main thing for the Imam is the inner change, right? Imam looks at people the way God looks at people, right? We had this discussion. Imam looks at people the way God looks at people. Now, when God looks at people, what does he see? When God looks at people, God sees a person. These are lines, by the way, from Dua Arafah, literally from Imam Hussein's dua. When God looks at every single person on this earth, what God sees is that, okay, this is a creation of me, this is a creation of mine, that I have put so much love into, so much care. Imam said, you showed love to every single one of us, وَلَمْ أَكُنْ شَيْئًا مَذْكُورًا. Before we even had a name. From one generation to another generation, God kept us, protected us. Imam said there were times in which the ruler of the time was very cruel. You didn't, put us in this earth. You kept us. And then when the time was right, when we could have been our best, when we could have reached our fullest potential, then you brought us to this world. Then you made our parents loving to us. Then you gave us milk. Then you helped us speak. Then you helped our intellect grow. Then you helped our physical and mental strength balance. And God did this for every single human being in the world. It's very important. Very important. So and why did God do this, by the way? Why did God do this? Again, it was in the beginning of Dua Arafah. Because Insan is very special to God. Right? Jazi kull son. Insan is the only being in the world to whom God has given parts of his power to create. And this is so important that he said, I know, they're going to make mistakes. The angel said, God, these guys, they're going to make mistakes. They're going to make serious mistakes. God said, I know, there's something about them which makes it more fit. Right? What is about them that makes it worth it? Is that these insan will make mistakes, but eventually will learn it, and that is worth it. So every single human person is a part of a very important divine project for which God had to stand in front of angels. Angels said, God, what do you need? You need glorification? We give you. You need us to thank you, praise you? We do that. God said, I don't need anyone's glorification and thanking. This insan is special. This insan I've created out of my love, right? Out of my love. I've created this insan because insan is perhaps, we can say, the only or one of the only creations that can, reach to a level that can understand God better than anyone else, that can feel God's love better than anyone else. So every single person, God has such project for, right? So much care has gone into every single person. So much love. Why? So that this person can come to this world through the mistakes that he or she makes, learn certain things, grow, reach to the level, right? Become Khalifatullah on earth, be the God's power on earth. So it's very, very important things, right? Now, this is, and so why? So eventually, so that this person can grow, and all of this love and care would finally show its fruit, would finally show its result, right? So that is why you see that if every single person doesn't reach their full potential, it's as if all of that love that God has showed us, all of that care is now not bearing fruits. Imagine a gardener who spends so much time on a tree and now this tree is not bearing fruits. Who is going to be the most upset when this thing happens? When there's a tree, so much love and care has gone into it and now is not bearing any fruits. Who would be the most upset person? The gardener. And who is our gardener? God. Rab means gardener, right? Rab means gardener. Someone who took care of us. So Imam Hussain looks and this is what he sees. He sees every person as a tree for which God has spent so much love and care, and it will only be, inshallah, bearing the fruits worth it if this tree reaches its full potential and grows, right? So now it makes sense why Imam Hussain even cried for Shimr, right? Because we look at Shimr, some people look at Shimr and they see the enemy that has to be destroyed, this, that. Imam Hussain looked at Shimr and saw a tree. He said, do you know how much love and care God has put into you? Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you doing this to yourself? Now, I want to have Ashura in mind, and this line from Dua Arafah. And alhamdulillah, none of this is from me. Line by line, we're reading from Dua Arafah. So Imam Hussain is explaining himself to us. He says, وَأَنْتَ مُؤَيَّدِي to God. وَأَنْتَ مُؤَيَّدِي بِالنَّصْرِ عَلَى أَعْدَائِ. You are my help against my enemies. It's very beautiful. When you are trying to understand someone like Imam Hussain with our own personality, we misread their sentences. The same happens also to Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. Imam Sajjad has a line, it says, oh God, help me to give consequences to my enemies. And if it's you and I, what do we think? Like, if they're attacking me, I want to attack them back. But Imam explains himself, right? He says, I want to show, if they do bad to me, I want to show love to them. See? So here, again, the same is with Imam Hussain. When we read this line, وَأَنْتَ مُؤَيَّدِي بِالنَّصْرِ عَلَىٰ أَعْدَائِي, and you are my help against enemies, we may think Imam wanted help to kill them, or Imam wanted help to physically defeat them. But when you look at Ashura, you see, no. What help Imam wanted was to soften their heart, to bring them over, right? Which is what he did with Hur ibn Riyahi, for example. And it wasn't only Hur. More than one person came to the side of Imam Hussain. This is the Nasr Imam Hussain is looking for against his enemies, right? What is the best way to defeat that enemy? To change his heart. to bring him to his to God's side, right? Because remember, every single person, as we said, is a tree, beautiful tree, for whom so much care and love has been put and spent by God subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so it's very beautiful. So now Imam says, I am the victor on this on the day of Ashura. Me, my family, my companions, we are the victors. Because not only we managed to bring some of these people over to our side, right? And imagine how much energy, how much beauty, how much work must have been put into bringing people to a side that is for sure going to be, apparently defeated, right? On the day of Ashura, thousands of people on the other side, a few people on this side, right? But still, there are some people who risk their lives. They go, you know what? I'm going to go to the other side. There are many people who joined Imam Hussein's side. But what happened inside them? These were trees saved by Imam Hussein, right? People who for 10 days fought against Imam Hussein, but on the last day, I said, come here. I saved your soul. Of course, God saved their soul, but Imam Hussein won them over. This is the Nasr Imam Hussein is talking about, right? I change their hearts. And this is not just about Imam Hussein. The same is with Imam Ali. And a lot of the times when, for example, a battle was forced upon Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Ali, every opportunity he got, he would go and speak to them. Let me go and speak to them. Maybe I can bring some of them over. Right? So, as you can see, the way Imam looks at things and the way we look at things are still very different. Still, after all of these years, we look at Ashura and we pretend as if it was a complete tragedy. As if Imam Hussein here is not saying that God, through your help, I became the victor. Right? So now tell me, if we paint Imam Hussein as a person who was defeated, if we allow the mourning to be the dominant aspect, of course, there is sadness, there is tragedy. But my question is this the dominant aspect? Then are we not doing injustice to Imam Hussein, who here is saying, وَلَوْلَا نَصْرَكَ إِيَّايَ لَكُنْتُ مِنَ الْمَغْلُوبِينَ? If it wasn't for your help, I would have been defeated. So Imam himself did not feel defeated. Very important paradigm shift, okay? And now, from this point onwards, Imam is trying to create a paradigm shift in the way we look at everything, right? So far, we spoke about how victory and loss in our eyes and in the eyes of Imam Hussein are very different. Imam Hussein says, no, see, I showed humanity, I showed humanity that you can be alone, you can be thirsty, you can see your children and family going through all of that difficulty and still behave beautifully. I showed this. This is a massive victory for humanity. Let me just, by the way, tell you something. I don't know if you were with us when in our book club we read the book The Search for Meaning, or Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor Frankl, right? By the way, I bless all of the people who are trying to put questions. I can't read them right now, okay? So if it's okay, let's keep it for the end so that it doesn't distract others, because I can't read it right now. Maybe at the end we can talk about everything, okay? Just to make sure that others don't get distracted as well. But bless you, thank you so much. I understand that there may be questions. Definitely, we will speak about it. What better thing do we have than to speak about these beautiful topics? So thank you so much for sharing this question. Inshallah, if it's okay, keep it till the end so that we can talk about it later. Others don't get distracted, including myself. So Imam says, what was I saying? Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. This is a story of a group of people in the concentration camps, okay? And of course, you're aware of the situation in the concentration camps, how terrible it was. And the people in charge of these people in the camps showed sometimes, unbelievable levels of cruelty, right? And, there was no food, there was forced labor. A lot of people, as soon as they showed any sign of weakness or physical illness, they were sent to, being killed. Very difficult situations, very difficult situations. And Viktor Frankl in that book explains what happened to people after a while of staying there. He says, imagine you already received the news that your family, your wife, your children were sent to another camp and they're already burnt, they're dead. Okay? And now you're here. Every day you have to wake up, work as hard as you can. And if you show any sign of weakness, that's your death sentence right there. He said after a few months of a life like this, treating people worse than animals, he said there was not much humanity left in people. It's a very interesting book. Please read it, Man's Search for Meaning. He said there were people there who, imagine the fear of death, and it's worse than death actually. Being burned alive, that's worse than death. Like the fear is such fear, it said was there at our door every moment of the day for days onwards. And it said the situation got to a level where some people, when they heard that, there's going to be another round of taking people and killing them, they would try to injure another one, for example, make them ill so that they would get killed, right? Just to save themselves. Or, for example, stealing food from each other, or selling a friend just to get a more portion of food. Because, when you're treated like this without any dignity, with so much pain, that's what we come down to, right? We even have, for example, in some discussions of ethics, if you are forced, you can even let go of some principles. For example, you can, if they say, do you believe in God? And you're forced, you can say, no, I don't believe in God, just to save your life. So as you can see, that was a very poor sign for humanity, like a poor test, because a lot of them afterwards were saying, give us some power and we will turn humans into animals. Make them depend for their food on, for example, doing cruelty, they will do anything. And that was such a terrible thing for us. After these concentration camps, a lot of people lost their faith in humanity. They were like, what is, all of kindness will go away after, for example, a few days of pain and torture, right? But in such world in which a lot of us fail to keep our humanity, and by the way, why am I giving examples of concentration camps? Didn't we see that in the beginning of, for example, the coronavirus outbreak? Everyone just forgot about humanity, and the toilet rolls were finished in some countries, right? That means I love you. We're all for, love, beauty, tolerance, everything, unless I need some toilet roll, right? So sometimes in tests like this, we fail. But Imam Hussain says, see, why do I feel like a victor? Imam Hussain, of course, he sees all of this from God, so it's no arrogance there. Imam Hussain says, why was I victorious on Ashura? Because I showed them. You didn't even give water to my son, right? But when I had water, I gave to you. This is a victory for humanity, right? This shows that, yes, there may be a lot of you that may lose their humanity after a while, but there is a standard. There is hope in Son, right? This is a victory for humanity. For, imagine if there is another, imagine if there's, for example, a court, and there's insan there, and there are angels and other creations of God. There's animals, angels, and insan, and all of them say, no, you guys, there's nothing beautiful about you. You let go of your values as soon as problem happens. Now we can show Hussein and say, see, no, some of us, yes, but no, we've got good models as well. This is why it was a victory. So when we look at Ashura, we shouldn't see a defeat. Imam Hussain says, Baba, I won. I was victorious. This is the example I showed. Now, yes, I know a lot of you may get busy and not speak to your children and your partners nicely, but I lost my family. I was in pain. I hadn't drunk water. I was thirsty. Enemies were attacking me. I was worried of what's going to happen to my family. But when my daughter needed me, I was on my knees and said, Daddy, the light of my eye, my beautiful girl, what do you want? I showed that insan is this beautiful, that when angels told God, why are you creating this insan that's going to do all of this? Imam Hussain says, yeah, on behalf of all of us, I gave the answer to the angels on that day. And that's why it was a victory. It wasn't a loss, because I showed the angels this is what God loves insan so much, because it can get to this level where it's so beautiful, so loving, no matter what you do to it, nothing but love and beauty comes out of it, which is whose quality? This is God's quality. And insan can reach a level where it can reflect God in this world. And that's why it's so special. And this is why Imam Hussain on the day of Ashura won and was not defeated. It's a victory that lasts for the entire history of humanity. And it's such an injustice to look at this and say that Imam Hussain was defeated, right? Imam is changing all the paradigms. And it says, not only I won on the behalf of every single one of us. I showed the angels how beautiful insan is, and I showed the angels insan can reflect God like no other being can. And then it goes, and then Imam explains this further. Imam says, guys, you need to look at things differently. You've got it all wrong, right? Imam says, Ya man khassa nafsahu bis-sumuwi wa-raf'ati fa-awliya'uhu bi-izzihi ya'tazun. Imam says, in this world, all izzah, all beauty belongs to God. But insan, no, that this God can come into your heart, and when God comes into your heart, he brings all of his qualities with him, and one of that is his love, his beauty, and his izzah. So when God comes into your heart, you become, you get dignity, you get izzah, you get love. And this is exactly what happened. And inshallah tomorrow, perhaps, or in our next session, we can continue with this paradigm shift that Imam talks about. Okay, so let's remember this very clearly. Imam Hussain was not defeated on the day of Ashura. Imam Hussain showed us things that we did not know. Imam Hussain says the main important task we have is to bring God into our hearts, to become beautiful like God, because anything short of that is waste of all the love and care that God put into every single one of us. And do you think that there was no reason why God was so patient with us? Of course there is, because God could see our potential, that every single one of us could be his mirrors on this earth. So please let us know our worth. Let us know the worth of Imam Hussain. Let us know what he did for us. And I hope, inshallah, this would enable us to look at everything differently and know that Imam Hussain says on that day, anyone who looks at that day of Ashura with eyes which can see the realities of the world, not eyes which are used to the fake version of the world. Imam says anyone who looks with an eye that has the light to see realities will look at the day of Ashura and see that I died with dignity. Me and my family had dignity. We were the ones with izzah. And indeed, that is true. I am sure every single being in the world can testify to that the most beautiful and dignified people on the earth were Imam Hussain. And if we now in our mourning try to disgrace the Imam or try to sound as if he is defeated, then whose side are we on? With whose lens are we looking at the world? And with whose lens are we looking at the event of Ashura if we think that Imam Hussein's family were defeated? And it's very important. We can claim to be with Imam Hussain, but still look at the world in the same way that Ibn Ziyad did, in the same way that Umar bin Sa'd did. And we have to bear in mind, who was the first person to hold sessions of mourning for Imam Hussain? Was it anyone other than Yazid? So please be very careful that you can think you love Imam Hussain, you can actually do, but still not look at the world in the same way that Imam Hussain looked at the world. And inshallah, in the next session, we will talk about Imam Hussain mentioning different examples of people and sons becoming victorious on the earth, and how every single one of these stories looks different. That victory in the eyes of Imam and God are very different to victory and success in our eyes. I don't want to talk more than this. I hope, inshallah, this session was beneficial. And inshallah, we will continue. We will have a special session inshallah tomorrow at noon. So an hour inshallah before the Zohr prayer, we will have a special session, and our commentaries on Dua Arafah inshallah will continue one session a week from Fridays. Every Friday inshallah after Ashura, we will have a commentary on Dua Arafah. We will try to continue with the dua and finish, but tomorrow we will have a special session on special session about Imam Hussain and what lessons, and maybe a summary of all these discussions we've had on these days, and a very important topic. Inshallah, tomorrow at 12 o'clock UK time, we will have that. And the commentary on Dua Arafah will continue every Friday, inshallah, till we finish the dua. Thank you so much for joining us. This lecture would be on IGTV and YouTube. Please share the word, spread the word, and share it with your friends. Thank you so much, and be in Allah's care and love.